thinner. This is known as thin skin, and this is thick. Thick skin and this thin skin. Two types of skin can be found in the body, thick and thin. Thick skin can be found just in the, what is this part? Palm. And sole, this part. Not the shoes. Inferior surface of the foot. Palm and sole. Okay? Just these two parts has thick skin. The thickness is something like this. And other parts of the body has a skin with different thickness. With different thickness, but thinner than thick skin. So it is known as thin skin. Any question? And look at here, as I told you, the derivatives of skin are hair, nails, sebaceous, and sweat glands. Now look at this part. Focus on these cells, keratinocytes. This is the main cell of the skin. As I told you, each organ has a main cell. And main cell in the nervous tissue was? Neuron. And here in the integumentary system, the main cell is keratinocytes. All cells that are located here, these cells are keratinocytes. Cells of skin are known as keratinocytes. But there are other cells, for example, responsible for color of the skin, melanocyte. For sensation of touch, Merkel cell. And another cell responsible for immunity, Langerhans. Immunity Langerhans for coloring of skin, melanocyte, and the most important cell, the main cell, that is very abundant in the skin, is keratinocyte. Okay? I will talk about these cells in details in the next slides. Now look at this picture. Here you can see the epidermis, and this part is dermis. As you can see, the epidermis has different layers. The first layer is known as basal layer or stratum basale. This layer of cells are known as basal layer. And above basal layer, the second layer is the stratum. Stratum means layer. Stratum means layer. Spinosum. The stratum spinosum or a spinous layer. These cells here. All these cells are a spinous layer. The third layer, then there is a granular layer or a stratum granulosum. The stratum granulosum. Cells located here. These are granular layer. After that, there is another layer that is unique just in thick skin. This layer can be found only in thick skin, not thin skin. Stratum lucidum. Stratum lucidum. This layer. And finally, the most superficial layer is known as stratum corneum. stratum corneum. This layer. SC, stratum corneum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the epidermis includes 5 layers. And one of them is just a characteristic of thick skin. Which one? The stratum lucidum.
What about days?
This turnover.
Yes. It's not important for the final exam, so we have to remember this.
Yes, everything in text is important. Yeah. But because it is easy to understand, here I didn't explain this. There is not any explanation for this, just this. The first layer, look at this. Here you can see a magnified picture of epidermis. Which one is the first layer? This. This layer is the first. The first layer is the stratum basal or basal layer. Basal layer or stratum basal. Cells in this layer are attached to each other, to other cells by desmosome. By desmosome. I think you know everything about desmosome. It's from the first session on epithelial tissue. Cells of this layer also attached to basement membrane by hemidesmosome. And in general, as other professors told you maybe, below each epithelial tissue there is basement membrane. And cells in the stratum basale or basal layer are attached to basement membrane, this layer, by hemidesmosome. Hemidesmosome. So cells are attached to each other by desmosome and attached to basement membrane by hemidesmosome. Now focus on this word, phonofilament. There are a unique filament that is a type of intermediate filament, a part of cytoskeleton within keratinocytes. As I told you, these cells are keratinocytes. And within keratinocytes, there is keratin filament. Keratin filament. Keratinocyte keratin. Keratinocyte keratin filament includes keratin filaments. And keratin filament is also known as phonofilament. Phonofilament, keratin filaments. So, which intermediate filament can be seen in keratinocytes? Phonofilament. Or another name, keratin filament. And also in this layer between keratinocytes in the first layer there are melanocytes and Merkel cell. As I told you, melanocytes are responsible for coloring. This cell is pigment producing cell within the skin. And Merkel cell for sensation of touch. Merkel cell and melanocytes are located between keratinocytes. So which cells in general can be found in the first layer, basal layer? Mostly keratinocytes. And the second, melanocyte and Merkel. These three types can be found in the first layer. But the most abundant cell in the first layer is keratinocyte. Any question? And the cells are attached to each other by which type of junction? Desmosome. Now look at the second layer. The second layer is known as stratum spinosum. Stratum spinosum. or a spinous layer. A spinous layer. Look at here. This is the thickest layer of epidermis. Here you can see a spinous layer. Look at this cell and adjacent cells. Between them, you can see some spinous structures. This. Because of this structure, this layer is known as a spinous layer. These are just desmosomes that attach to cells. One cell is attached to another cell by desmosome. This is just desmosome, junctional complex. Because of this appearance, similar to a spines, this layer is known as a spinous layer. So it is the thickest layer. Now look at the next layer. Look at this layer. Layers of cells. This is known as a stratum granulosum. What is granule? What is granule? You must know this from previous sessions.
Like ball is small. What's the name
Some-
in Arabic? حبيبات.
Simply something accumulated in cytoplasm. Something accumulated or aggregates inside the cytoplasm is known as granule. Some of granules are bound by plasma membrane, but some are not. Okay? Now look at these cells. You can see granules inside the cells. So this layer is known as a stratum granulosum. Now which type of granules can be found in these cells? Two types of granules. One of them is known as keratohyalin granule that are not membrane bound. Keratohyalin granules within keratinocytes. The cells are keratinocytes, as I told you. And within these keratinocytes, there are keratohyalin granules. This type of granules are not membrane bounded, are not bound by plasma membrane, by something like plasma membrane. And there is also another granule in these cells known as lamellar granules. Is there lamellar granules here? It's written. Look at here, lamellar granules. The lamellar granules are membrane-coated granules. These membrane-coated granules are derived from Golgi complexes. What is the function of these granules? Focus on this. Makes a skin more waterproof. These granules undergo exocytosis and make a skin more waterproof. The next layer is known as the stratum lucidum. What is this layer? Granulosum. Next to a stratum granulosum, this layer, this part. This layer is the stratum lucidum. Is there any nuclei here? No, there is not any nucleus within the cells. And organelle. So this is an important point. These cells lack organelles and nuclei. So in fact, these are dead cells. And the cells are dead and are filled by tonofilaments. And a group of tonofilaments are known as tonofibrils. Tonofibrils. But the basal cells have tonofilament, and with differentiation, next cells in the spinous layer, in granular and lucidum layer have tonofibers. Tonofibers is thicker than tonofilament. For example, this is a filament, okay? A group of filament is known as fiber. A group of filament. This is a filament, this is a fiber. Okay? Tonofibers can be found in these cells. And the cells are transparent. So this is known as stratum lucidum because the cells here are transparent. What's the meaning of transparent in Arabic? Shafaf. Transparent. Lucidum means transparent. Shafaf. So cells here are dead, like organelles and nuclei. And the last layer, and another point about this that is so important, this layer is unique, just a characteristic in the thick skin, not thin skin. Okay? In the palm and sole. A stratum corneum. Look at this layer from the surface to this part. This layer is a stratum corneum. Cells here have no nuclei. And cells here are filled with the cytoplasm. Imagine that this is a cell. There is no nuclei and it is filled by keratin, fibrils and filaments. It's filled by keratin. A cell filled with just keratin, without any nucleus, any organ. This is a dead cell. And it is known as cornified cell or keratinized cell. Keratinized cell means filled with keratin. So this layer that is composed of dead cell is known as a stratum corneum. Keratinized cell or cornified cell. And this layer has a protective function. Protective function against water loss, for example, against invaders, bacteria, virus, injuries. Now let's have a look at the cells, other cells of epidermis. Melanocyte. Melanocyte is responsible for skin color. But it is just one factor. There is other factors that affect the color of skin. For example, amount of keratin. Amount of keratin. And amount of vessels. Number of vessels. Number of vessels within the skin. Or amount of keratin. Keratin is another pigment. And the most important one is melanocytes. Melanocytes produce a pigment known as melanin. Melanin. Produce melanocyte, melanin. Melanomelanin. Produce melanin, simply. Melanin is a pigment that is produced by tyrosinase. Tyrosinase is an enzyme that produces melanin. Convert tyrosine to melanin. And melanin is responsible for color of the skin. There are two types of melanin. Eumelanin, that is brown or black. Eumelanin. And another melanin is pheomelanin, reddish melanin. in red hair, for example, in red hair, there is pheomelanin, but in black hair, there is eumelanin. Okay? So there are two types of melanin, eumelanin and pheomelanin. And another function for melanin that is so important is that it is protect DNA from UV of sunlight. It is protector, not just for coloring. That accumulates, imagine that this is keratinocyte and this is nucleus. Melanin accumulates in this part as a cap on the nucleus. So it protects DNA from UV sunlight, absorb UV, scattered UV. Maybe this is more important than just color of this. Here you can see a melanocyte. This is a melanocyte. As you can see, it has several processes. After producing melanin inside the melanocyte incorporates the melanin into keratinocytes. So the final destination of melanin is melanocyte, not just melanin. It is produced by melanin and transported to keratinocyte, to other cells.
Can you write the two type of melanin, please?
It is written in the text.
I don't find it.
No, not in this.
Okay.
Text file.
If someone have lower melanin, he will have cancer because of UV.
Pheomelanin,
If someone have lower
melanin,
Yes.
no. Cancer because of sunlight, yes.
Yes.
Because sunlight causes mutation in DNA and genes. Good point. Any question about melanocyte? Melanocyte produces melanin and transport it to keratinocytes. And the function of melanin is to protect DNA and make coloring.
How do the melanocyte melanin gets transported into other cells? By melanosome?
By melanosome, yes. A granule. A membrane-coated granule. This is melanocyte, for example, and these are granules of melanin.
Psychology system.
These are melanosome. Another cell that can be found in the epidermis is known as Langerhans cell. Langerhans. This is a Langerhans cell. This is mainly, this cell can be found in the second layer, mainly in a spinous layer. Langerhans cell. What is the function of Langerhans? The Langerhans is similar to macrophage. That absorb, yes, defense. Absorb antigen. What is antigen?
Like the opposite.
Antibody defense against antigens.
The opposite of
Other things except the tissues of body are known as, for example, bacteria. Some molecules on bacteria, molecules on virus, DNA on virus,
consists of protein.
of protein, mainly protein. You must study this in connective tissue. Langerhans cells absorb the antigen, process the antigen, and present the antigen on the surface. Imagine that this is Langerhans cell. Absorb antigen, process it, and present it at the surface. to other cells, for example, B cells. So it is also known as antigen presenting cell. Antigen presenting cell, because present antigen at the surface for other cells, for example, B cells, T cells, and so on. And the last cell is known as Merkel. Merkel cell. As I told you, the Merkel cell is located at the first layer between keratinocytes of the first layer. What was the first layer? Basal layer. So it is located in the basal layer. And what is this structure? This is a nerve. So it contacts with nerve ending. Because of the function of this cell is mechanoreceptor for touch, for gentle touch.
If you touch something, it's
For example, now I induce, stimulate Merkel cells here with touch. It is a receptor. For what?
when you touch something, is hot. Something is hot.
It's hot? No, not. It's mechanoreceptor. Mechanoreceptor. Thus, this is mechanoreceptors. There are other receptors for temperature. But Merkel cell is a mechanoreceptor. And it is numerous in, for example, palmar, plantar skin, palm and sole, and fingertip. Numerous in fingertip, because fingertip is so sensitive. Because there is abundant Merkel cells in the fingertip, the skin. So this layer is epidermis. I told you everything about epidermis. And below epidermis there is dermis. Dermis is composed of two layers. The superficial layer is known as papillary layer. This layer, the superficial, the first layer, just below epidermis. This layer is papillary layer. And the next layer, deeper, this part. Deeper part is reticular layer. Papillary layer is composed of loose connective tissue, and reticular layer is composed of dense, irregular connective tissue. So the first one is loose connective tissue, and the next, deeper, is dense, irregular connective tissue. You can see collagen fibers here. Dense, irregular connective tissue, reticular layers. And now look at these projections. There are some projections from dermis into epidermis. Something like this. Projections of dermis into epidermis. This is known as dermal papilla. This, dermal papilla. And also there are some projections from epidermis into dermis. Epidermis into dermis. This is known as epidermal ridge. Interdigitation. Epidermal ridge and dermal papilla. Interdigitation. For better attachment. For better attachment of epidermis to dermis. Interdigitate. Digitate. Interdigitate. And what about hypodermis? Hypodermis is the deepest part, this part. Hypodermis is not a part of the skin. And it is mainly composed of adipose tissue rich in adipocytes, rich in adipose tissue. And maybe in this area we can find hair follicle, nerves and so on, blood vessels. So maybe the most important feature of hypodermis is that it is rich in fat, adipose tissue. And adipose tissue is a type of connective tissue. So what is this layer?
Epidermis.
Epidermis. This layer,
Dermis.
which part of dermis?
Glands.
Papillary layer. And what about this part?
Reticular layer.
Reticular layer. From to this, and this part?
Hypodermis.
Hypodermis. Very good. Epidermis, dermis with two layers, that is papillary and reticular, and this is hypodermis. Because of hypodermis, the skin can slide over other tissues, like this. A sliding of the skin. Do this on the dorsal surface of this. Sliding is because of hypodermis, because it is a loose tissue rich in fat. Have a break, then we'll continue.